Hi friends, we are in Unit 2, Day 8. We're talking about evaluating sums and differences of functions using the algebra of functions. For this one, we have an interesting situation. Here we have f of x equals 3x squared, and then g of x equals the square root, that's important, of x plus 3. So if we're talking about determining the domain of this, so again, we talk about determining the intersection of the domains. So the domain of f of x, is going to be all real numbers. There's no issue. G of x, that's where we need to talk about what's going on here. So the domain of g of x, take x plus 3, set it greater than or equal to 0, and then solve. Square both sides, subtract 3, you get x is greater than or equal to negative 3. So the domain then is the intersection of this. Well, the domain then has to be... Another way of thinking about this is think about what is the most restrictive of these two and combining those restrictions. So the domain of h of x is going to be, x is going to have to be greater than or equal to negative 3. And I'll go ahead and put this in set notation, x such that x is greater than or equal to negative 3. So let's find a new function rule for h of x. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about, well, let's go ahead and just talk about doing this without using the definition. Let's just go right into h of x is equal to. So we're just going to say 3x squared plus square root of x plus 3. So now if I just group these like so, I'm using parentheses. In the last example in the previous video, I used brackets because we already had parentheses. For this one, we can just use parentheses. If you look at this, there's really nothing that I need to simplify or combine, so it's actually done. You can just leave it as 3x squared plus square root of x plus 3 because it's in standard form. Evaluate h of 3. So if I plug in 3, what do I get? So h of 3 is equal to 3 times 3 squared plus square root of 3 plus 3. 3 squared is 9. 9 times 3 is 27. So I have 27 plus square root of 6. Square root of 6 is simplified. We don't need to do anything else with that, so that's done. H of negative 5. This is where it's very important to look at the domain. With h of negative 5, you actually can't evaluate this. H of negative 5 is not an element of the domain. It's not an element of the domain. So you can't actually evaluate h of negative 5. H of negative 5 isn't even possible. An example of this would be no solution, because you can't evaluate it. There's not a solution. There's not an option for a solution, because it would give you an imaginary number. What is the difference between the domain from the difference function and the sum function? Well, the domain on the difference function from the previous page was all real numbers. This one, it's limited. And it's limited because of the square root. Remember, the things that can limit domains, you could either have an even root, or you could have a variable in the denominator. We can divide by 0, and we can have we can only have non-negative numbers underneath even roots. So go ahead and sum up kind of like your interpretation of this. Put that there. Next video, we'll talk about products and quotients of functions. Have a great day.